them the tools to do it, and technology is one of the biggest tools that we don't have enough of at the ports of entry. Now, we also need to lower demand here in this country. And the way to lower demand is to start treating people again. You know, we started to do this before COVID, and we haven't done enough of it. And for every family out there tonight who has lost a loved one to fentanyl or to any other type of opioid overdose, what you know is all you want is a chance for them to win their lives back. When I'm president of the United States, we're going to call this what it is. It is a disease like heart disease, diabetes, or any other disease like cancer that can be treated, should be treated. We not only have to stop supply, but we have to lower demand and save lives.
Governor DeSantis, you have talked about using United States Special Forces to attack the cartels where they manufacture the chemicals that come from China. How often? How many? What does that look like?
Well, first, I was speaking to a dad who lost a son to fentanyl overdose. Son wasn't a drug addict. He had taken some pill that happened to be laced with fentanyl, and it was a fatal overdose. And when he told me, obviously the pain of losing about what's going on in this country, they don't care that we have tens of thousands of opioid deaths that the fentanyl's pouring in. They are not.
So we're watching both. Trump is here in Miami. He's doing a rally. It's raining outside. He's been talking for over an hour now. But the GOP debate, they have commercial breaks, so I'm switching back and forth between both and obviously seeing if there's any market movement here. Not expecting much.
Donald Trump promised. How are you going to do it? Yeah, Mexico's not going to fork over money. We're going to impose fees on the remittances that foreign workers send to foreign countries. We'll raise billions of dollars. I'll build a wall. But we are going to designate the cartels to be foreign terrorist organizations or something similar to that. And we're going to authorize the use of deadly force. We're going to have maritime operations to interdict precursor chemicals going into Mexico. But I'll tell you this, if someone in the drug cartels is sneaking fentanyl across the border when I'm president, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to shoot them stone cold dead.
Ambassador Haley, if the United States uses special forces in Mexico without prior notice to the Mexican allies to our south, what would your colleagues at the United Nations think about that?
I don't care what my colleagues at the United Nations think. What I'll tell you is, first of all, you have to go to the source. We have lost more Americans than the Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq wars combined. We lost 75,000 Americans last year. Go to the source. It is the reason why we'll continue to say we will end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans. You watch how quick that flow stops. The second thing is we'll send special operations in to take out the cartels. We need to go to where they're distributing it, where the supply centers are, and take them out. We'll put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We will defund sanctuary cities. We will go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that everybody stays in Mexico and they never get here in the first place. And instead of catch and deport, we'll go to catch and release. Instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That is the way we'll deal with the border. Those are the things that we have to do going forward. But I do agree with Chris. One of the first things that we have to do is really focus on mental health and addiction centers. It is something that is needed in our country terribly because we don't deal with mental health, and someone who doesn't get care for mental health falls into addiction, and we owe it to them to treat it like the cancer that it is.
Mr. Ramaswamy, special forces in Mexico, shoot them stone cold dead at the border?
One thing I just want to say and how we're talking about this issue is, like Ron, I've actually met many parents across this country who have lost their kids to laced pharmaceuticals that have fentanyl in them. The only thing I would ask, Ron, I think you'd be on the same page with me on this. Let's not even call that an overdose. Right. That is not an overdose. That is poisoning. If you put that fentanyl in a Big Mac, we would not call that an overdose. You'd call it what it is. It's closer to bioterrorism. And I say that because as it uniquely relates to this crisis, that does warrant more aggressive means to deal with it. So there's a new presidential election in Mexico in 2024. People may not be aware of that. It's going to be someone other than Obrador, who has been a disaster in Mexico. I think he's even mentioned me obliquely in speeches to say that somebody who would do this shouldn't get anywhere near the White House. Well, AMLO, get out of the way. There's going to be someone else in charge. I hope to build a good relationship with that next president of Mexico. We'll use our own military to seal our own southern border. What we need to do is stop using our military to protect somebody else's border halfway around the world when we're short right here at home. Get serious about protecting this border. And then the other thing that hasn't been discussed is the northern border. I'm the only candidate on the stage, as far as I'm aware, who has actually visited the northern border. There was enough fentanyl that was captured just on the northern border last year to kill 3 million Americans. So we got to just skate to where the puck is going, not just where the puck is. Don't just build the wall, build both walls. Can't just complete the wall, use the military to seal the Swiss cheese for the tunnels that they're actually building underneath that wall.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what it needs to be
Ramaswamy.
practical and actually get this job done.
Thank you. Kristen.
Thank you, Hugh. Let's talk now about last night's election results. Abortion rights supporters saw victories in Ohio and Virginia following earlier wins in states like Kansas and Kentucky. Governor DeSantis, first to you, how do you see the path forward for Republicans on this issue?
Well, I stand for a culture of life, and I understand that it's important that everyone gets a shot. I'm reminded of a story about a young mother who was struggling in Jamaica about 45 years ago. She was counseled to not have a baby because she was poor, baby wouldn't have opportunity, and she came close to have an abortion, but she decided to have the baby born poor in Jamaica. And the reason I know that story is because that baby girl ended up emigrating to the state of Florida, becoming a lawyer and a judge, and I appointed her to the Florida Supreme Court in August of 2022. We're better off when everybody counts. We're better off when we can promote a culture of life. At the same time, I understand that some of these states are doing it a little bit different. Texas is not going to do it the same as New Hampshire. Iowa is not necessarily going to do it the same as Virginia. So you got to work from the bottom up. You got to do a better job on these referenda. I think of all the stuff that's happened to the pro-life cause, they have been caught flat-footed on these referenda, and they have been losing the referenda. A lot of the people who are voting for the referenda are Republicans who would vote for a Republican candidate. So you got to understand how to do that. But let's just be clear. The Democrats have taken a position. They will not identify the point at which there should be any protection all the way up until birth. That is wrong, and we cannot stand for that.
All right, Governor DeSantis, thank you. Ambassador Haley, let me have you weigh in. Former President Trump has consistently blamed the abortion issue and how Republican candidates have talked about it for their electoral losses. How do you see the path forward?
You know, I've said it before. I think you have to be honest with the American people. This is a personal issue for every woman and every man. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband, Michael, was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, when you look post-Roe, a wrong was made right. They took it out of the hands of unelected justices and they put it in the hands of the people.
So if you guys are tuning in, we're watching both. There's the GOP debate. Trump obviously doing a slight dig at the GOP debate by hosting his own rally at the same time in the same city. So Trump is in, I think, some suburban neighborhood down here in South Florida. And I think that the GOP debate is also in South Florida. They're both pretty close to Miami. So Trump is a master at this. I'm pretty sure he's going to be speaking until the end of the debate. But as they go back and forth in commercial breaks, I'll cover both and just see if there's anything that could potentially affect markets. None of them are in office. Well, a few of them hold like Senate or a governor seat in the case of DeSantis. So they're not real, like the top decision makers, but a lot of the rhetoric that they're saying is going to give us a sentiment of what next year is going to look like, especially as it relates to the election.
Contraception accessible. Let's make sure that none of these state laws put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty for getting an abortion. Let's focus on how to save as many babies as we can and support as many moms as we can and stop
Thank
the
you,
judgment.
Ambassador.
We don't need to divide America over this issue anymore.
Thank you, Ambassador. Senator Scott. Senator Scott, I'd like you to weigh in. How do you see the path forward? And what do you make of what Ambassador Haley just said? Do you see this as a consensus issue?
Well, I'm 100% pro-life. I have had 100% pro-life voting record. I would certainly, as President of the United States, have a 15-week national limit. I would not allow states like California, Illinois, or New York to have abortion up until the day of birth. I certainly wouldn't not allow for governors, former governor, Democratic governor of Virginia, who talked about infanticide. We need a 15-week federal limit. 3 out of 4 Americans agree with a 15-week limit. 47 out of 50 countries in Europe agree with a 15-week limit. I would challenge both Nikki and Ron to join me at a 15-week limit. It is in our nation's best interest. And frankly, I think it's unethical and immoral to allow for abortions up until the day of birth. We have an opportunity in this nation to stop that reckless behavior from states like California, New York, and Illinois. I'd go a step further. In my parents' plan, we start by talking about funding, block granting resources to crisis pregnancy centers. We should support adoption. There are a number of ways that we can say to the expectant mother that we stand with you. We should not only be pro-life before the child is born, we should be pro-life after the child is born just as much.
Senator Scott, thank you. Ambassador Haley, your name was invoked. Would you support a 15-week federal limit?
I would support anything that would pass because that's what would save more babies and support more moms. But you have to be honest with the American people. And I appreciate that Tim keeps calling me out for this. But Tim, there was a bill last year. Lindsey Graham sponsored it. You didn't even co-sponsor the bill. And then when you first were interviewed on this, when you ran, you wouldn't even say you were for 15 weeks. What I'm saying to the American people is,
That's just not true.
let's see what we can agree on. Let's bring people together and decide what we can agree on. I will sign anything where we can get 60 Senate votes, but don't make the American people think that you're going to push something on them when we don't even have the votes in the Senate. It's important that we're honest about that.
Let me go to Mr. Ramaswamy. Would you support a 15-week federal ban? And what is the path forward on this?
I
issue?
just wanted to say, I mean, I think Nikki Haley didn't invoke being honest. And I at least want to give credit to
Oh.
Tim Scott. He's honest about where he stood. And I think you should be honest, not making a list, but to say if ability, it. Here's my view on this.
Yeah, he's a real one for standing up for Rick Scott. He was like, yo, she's coming at you hard and I'm gonna be in your corner. He's a real one.
Ohio, I'm upset about this yesterday, that passed a constitutional amendment that now effectively codifies a right to abortion all the way up to the time of birth without parental consent. Why? It's back to that Republican culture of losing. The Republicans did not have an alternative amendment or vision on the table. I know Ohio. I was born, raised, and I lived there. It's representative of the country. If in the state of Ohio, we talked about access to contraception, adoption, and also here's the missing ingredient in this movement, sexual responsibility for men. We live in an era of reliable genetic paternity tests that are 100% reliable. So we can say men deserve more responsibility. So we can tell women we're all in this together. It's not men's rights versus women's rights. It's about human rights. And I've come back to that case that Clarence Thomas spoke of. A pregnant woman walking down the street. She's assaulted. The unborn child dies in that assault. You find me one person in this country who says that that criminal does not deserve liability for that death. You won't find one. That says we share the same instincts on this issue, but we require, I believe, a different generation
Mr.
of
Ramaswamy,
leadership
thank you.
to actually lead us forward and unite the country on this
Thank you.
honesty.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Governor Christie, as you know,
Okay.
federal limits are important to a lot of Republicans. Where do you stand on this issue? And what is the path forward for Republicans?
For 50 years, conservative lawyers have been arguing that the federal government should have absolutely nothing to do with this issue constitutionally because it's nowhere in the Constitution. And then Dobbs comes and we finally gain that victory, which was the creation of a constitutional right out of thin air that didn't exist. And now we have people running to say, let's short circuit the states from doing what they need to do. And let's go right to some type of federal ban at a certain number of weeks. And people on the stage have been all over the place, 20 weeks, 15 weeks, 12, 6. Look, the Frowners were really smart. And this is an issue that should be decided in each state. And I trust the people of this country, state by state, to make the call for themselves. Now, that's going to lead to a lot of divergence. In Oklahoma, you can't get an abortion unless the life of the mother is at risk. In my home state of New Jersey, it goes up to 9 months that you get an abortion. I find that morally reprehensible, but that is what the people of our state have voted for. And we should not short circuit that process until every state's people have the right to weigh in on it. But here's the bigger issue, Kirsten. The bigger issue is, and Tim began to touch on this, we're not pro-life for the whole life. To be pro-life for the whole life means that the life of a 16-year-old drug addict on the floor of the county lockup is precious, and we should get treatment for her to restore her life. The 52-year-old who's drug addicted should make sure that any of his children who he's passed that addiction on to are treated well too.
Thank you.
Pro-life's not just in the womb, Kirsten, it's for the whole life.
All right, Governor, thank you. Candidates, thank you. We're going to take a final break. And when we come back, we'll hear from all of you with your closing statements. This is the NBC News Republican presidential debate. We'll be back right after this.
All right, so it kind of seems like what happened here? Oh, looks like Trump's done talking. He couldn't hang, it got too cold out there.
Like never ever before. We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a
Is
military.
that music from the rally?
to rock
There's no
Israel.
way he's playing this music.
And let
Yo, this man is wild.
China, Russia, and North Korea in check. They weren't going to do a thing against us.
This man is so dramatic, bro. For what?
That was the fact. Now Russia and China are holding summits to carve up the world. And perhaps most importantly, we are a nation that is no longer respected or listened to on the world stage. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. We are a nation that is hostile to liberty.
Wow. I was not expecting this.
Into a cesspool of ruin.
This is going to make for some crazy reels.
Whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming.
I can see the bot accounts chopping this up. He's giving them content for days.
We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods, but with no retribution, where the authority of our great police has been taken, where their families and pensions have been threatened, and their lives would be destroyed for the mere mention of the words law enforcement. We are a nation where fentanyl and all of the other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than formula for our beautiful little babies. A nation whose once revered airports are dirty, they're crowded, they're a mess. You sit and wait for hours and then are notified that the plane won't leave and they have no idea when they will.
Yo, this is over the top, bro. This is so unnecessary.
To fly the planes, they don't seek qualified air traffic and
It's cold. I mean, it's not cold. It's humid in Miami. It's raining. Hope you guys know this. So these people out here standing outside in the rain. I don't know if it's covered or not, but it looks like people out here looking around, getting ready to leave. I don't know what's going on.
lost its way. But we are not going to.
Or they could be paid actors.
3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again.
This dude's from New York. This person is not from Miami.
It was the hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it's the hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists. We will throw off the sick political class. And we will rout the fake news media. We will drain the swamp. And we will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. We will win. Like those patriots before us, we will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield.
Is he reading a teleprompter?
We will never give up, and we will never, ever back down.
Not gonna lie, it's gonna be tough if Biden wants to debate Trump. This is gonna be a tough one for Biden.
Complete the mission. We will cross the finish line. We will give your support to everybody that is good, and you will support us in this primary. We will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House. We will take back our country with a righteous and magnificent victory on Election Day 2024. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership,
But I don't, it's so hard for me to take this serious. And I know he probably means this too, but it's so hard for me to
we
take
are
this
one
serious with the
movement,
music.
one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God.
All right. I was a little heavy. Let's get back to the debate.
You pay it back. If you commit a violent crime.
So just as a reminder, Trump finished speaking. I rewinded it a bit just so we can see the ending part of his speech that I missed. This is the very last thing that he said before he hopped off. GOP debates, these are live happening right now. So I'm keeping these up.
Do not just, I want us together to win the war for our Christian conservative
Senator Scott.
values that changed my life.
Senator Scott, thank you.
And built
Governor
this country.
Christie, you have.
That's why I'm asking you for your vote. Thank you for hosting tonight. Listen, it's a gift to be an American. And I'm running for president of the United States because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing the division. I'm tired of seeing the anger. And I can see in the eyes of Americans their exhaustion from the petty personal politics that have taken over this country over the last number of years. I'm running for president to be a president of consequence, to do the big things, to make sure that America's role in the world stays number one, that we stand up for our friends and allies around the world, and we stand up for what we believe in right here at home. And it's not to eliminate our differences. Our differences has always been our strength as a country, not our weakness. But you can't truly say you love America unless you're ready to open up your heart to every American. I'm going to open up my heart to every American as president, and I will make sure that I return honesty, integrity to the Oval Office. We deserve and should accept nothing less.
Governor, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Ramaswamy now. Your 1 minute.
We've talked a lot about foreign wars tonight, but we're in the middle of a war right here at home. It's a war not between black and white or Democrat and Republican. It's between those of us who believe in our founding ideals and love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America. And I think it's going to take a commander in chief to lead us to victory in that war, who first of all knows that we're in a war. Second of all, can't be captured by the special interests along the way. But third is from the next generation, somebody with fresh legs to lead us to victory. I'll shut down the deep state. I'll declare economic independence from China. I'll keep us out of World War III and then revive national pride in this country. I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class.
Oh.
So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
Just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an honest
Time is
debate.
up.
Let the crowd go nuts. And listen to the crowd.
Ambassador,
The whole country, bro, he just said that the president of the United States is a puppet for the managerial class and they should grow some balls and fix it on live television at the GOP debate.
That we know how to defend our freedoms and how to defeat terrorism and socialism. We have to know the difference between good and evil. We have to know the difference between right and wrong. We need to know that a strong America doesn't start wars. A strong America prevents wars. And the way we can focus on that is to make sure we go back to the soul of America and be strong and proud again. And we can't do that. We can't win the fights of the 21st century with politicians from the 20th century. We have to move forward and we can do this. I know we can do this. So join our movement. Go to NikkiHaley.com.
Oh my God, not the plug. Yo, have some self-respect, Nikki.
Governor DeSantis, you're closing. You have 1 minute.
We must reverse our country's decline, and that is going to require leadership. I will take the hits. I will take the arrows. I will take the barbs because it's not about me. It's about you. It's not about the past. It's about your future.
Classic
To
DeSantis.
fight for you. I am going to win for you and your family and I'm going to lead this country's revival. As a veteran of the Iraq War and in the Navy, I will always put service above self as president. As the father of 3 young kids, I'm going to ensure that this country is left to.
Put a 1 in the chat if you believe him. Put a 2 if you think it's cap.
And as the governor of Florida, I delivered on all my promises. You can trust me to deliver for you as the president of the United States. I am asking for your vote. I'll be a nominee that will be able to win the election. I will be a leader. You can be.
Yeah, put a 1 if you guys believe him. Put a 2 if it's cap.
Bless you.
Governor DeSantis, thank you. That is going to conclude our debate. The next line says, if the audience can hold their applause. That didn't work out. But anyway, for just a few more seconds, I'll ask you to just hold the applause. On behalf of my fellow moderators, I want to thank the candidate.
They were clapping it up for DeSantis. I mean, he's in his home territory. They should have clapped it up a bit more, but he's kind of a weirdo.
As well to our.
I mean, he gets it done. Don't get me wrong. We all moved to Florida for one reason. His policies got it done. But on that stage, did not look that good. I think Vivek is definitely looking the best. Chris Christie actually shocked me a little bit. I think Rick Scott needs to leave. I'll be honest. Nikki Haley, she got to go. I think Chris Christie has 0 chance of winning. Don't get me wrong, but he's so good for the stage. He can take all the hits. He can give them back. He actually does say a lot of facts. You know, he kind of just throws these one-liners that tend to make it to the media and tend to get circulated. But I think when it comes to the most cohesive and comprehensive just kind of policies and policy approach, I would have to say Vivek got it down. Because when everybody else gets asked, they always go to talking points from their party. We got to shut down this. We got to close this gap. We got to make sure that women, you know, it's always generalities and it's always like innuendos, kind of indirect answers. Vivek actually has a top-down approach where he explains the policy and then he also explains the reasoning behind the policy, which is very rare. And so I think just when it comes to whose policies do I now understand after having watched this, I'd have to say Vivek. Nikki Haley kind of sounds like she wants us to keep giving aid to these foreign countries. It kind of seems like that's her go-to. DeSantis standing on business. Said, I got it done in Florida. I'm going to get it done for you. As awkward as he is up there, he's not lying. He did get it done, and he was very effective as the governor, still is. Rick Scott, not moving the needle at all. He's just happy to be up there. Look at him. He's like, isn't 4th place nice? Chris Christie ain't going to win at all. But at least he's standing his own. And at least if they're going to debate Trump, you need somebody up there that can throw. And really, I can just see Vivek and Rick Scott be the only 2 that can really, really stand there. He said, I'm still shocked at Vivek's closing line. Yeah, that was just nuts. To be honest, I did not expect him. I mean, I met Vivek down here at a local event, and the guy is exactly how he is on stage. He's going to say it the way it is. And it's very rare, and I think that we're seeing a new age of politics. I think that genuinely having the ability to not just hear these guys every once in a while on stage in these very calculated formats, but also these guys are doing podcasts. They're doing long form, and you're able to get a glimpse of what they actually believe about these issues. When they're hitting these one-liners and they're on the clock, you have 2 minutes to answer a very complicated question. You don't really understand the nuance of how they believe about certain things. So I respect any of the candidates that are going out there doing the media tours, getting asked all the tough questions with people they agree with and people that definitely they don't agree with. And the people that are hiding and playing this sort of like I don't see a lot of the other folks doing media besides mainstream. So these guys are not going to really convince me that they have anybody's best interest. Like they're not doing nothing. They're not taking any of the hard questions. They don't really believe what they're out here saying. They're just saying it because they know it's going to get them popularity. Like he's taking pictures. He's happy to be up there. And I'm happy for him because nobody is going to be the #1 nominee for the GOP. We just saw Trump. Let's see what these numbers look like. Well, it ended, so probably not a lot. We got 20K on this one, 50K on this one. Oh, that was streamed 6 days ago. Never mind. I'm trying to take a look at what the total viewership is. The number count is going to be out in the next few days. They'll let us know how many total views across all the mainstream media channels the traditional GOP debate had versus Trump. And ladies and gentlemen, we all know what his strategy was, and whether you agree with it or not, kind of makes sense. He's the number one front runner. He's leading by a mile. He has 60%. Look, long story short, his whole strategy is take attention away from their debate, put it on him. He was doing the music and all of the kind of like heartfelt, dramatic stuff that he knew would get attention. And even all the mainstream channels that didn't want to give Trump the attention are so hungry for views that they were flipping back and forth. So it just goes to show that regardless of how the media feels about Trump, they needed him for clicks. They were never as popular as 2020 and 2019. I mean, during all of Trump's presidency, the media companies had some of their best years in terms of viewership because they were just constantly fear-mongering. He was great for ratings. And so that's what we're seeing now, is that you can put up 10 people on a stage, combine them all, take all of the mainstream media and put it behind them, and it still won't get as much views as a very charismatic and what seems to be something that people want to watch. Like Trump gets the eyeballs. That's what he's the best at. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Trump is going to take the win or not? Let me know in the chat box. Do you guys think Trump is going to win this or not? Do you think anybody else on the stage has a chance? And if they do have a chance, who would it be? Who's your top three? If that's an easier question for you guys to answer. Because when you look at the news, everyone's kind of writing it off like Trump already won, saying everybody here is just fighting for second place. But I don't know if that's true. I think a lot of the country is also tired of, you don't want somebody 80 years old running this shit either. Looks like you guys are saying it's easy. All right, so he said, what you think about Kennedy? So when people look at who are they going to put on the other side, they really don't have that many options. Gavin Newsom said he wasn't running, but I'm sure they'll throw him up there. Maybe Kamala runs because she already has experience. People know her face. But yeah, I mean, Kennedy is the only name that I could see on the Democratic side that could even compete. But the problem is, it's all about the stage. When they're both on stage, Trump's a bully, man. Trump is a bully. And it sucks to say, but when you're dealing with all these geopolitical conflicts, you need somebody who's that strong to stand in front of these tyrannical world leaders and have that same level of, he can go back and forth and spar. Not afraid to speak his mind, not afraid to have an opinion. With Kennedy's going to make some great points. He's going to be able to throw digs because they've both been around the same circles for so long. The Kennedy family and the Trump family are American royalty. They have the same access. So at this point, I think in terms of the content that they would speak about, they're actually probably aligned on most things. If I'm going to be real, they probably agree on most stuff. But when it comes to this match of getting attention and getting popularity and charisma and who's going to win that in people's minds, who won, I think that Trump is going to easily win that one. We need a real leader as a president, neither Trump nor Biden. I like Trump more because it's personal for him. But that I think is actually his downfall. You don't really want you don't want a president who's self-centered. You want a president who is 100% focused on the country. And that's who Trump was when he first ran. But now that he has this chip on his shoulder and they tried to do him dirty and the justice system and all these things, I kind of feel like it's too personal for him. So we kind of just have to make it like Vivek is perfect, in my opinion, because he has so much to prove. He's the youngest. He's extremely intelligent, but everything is going against him. He's the first Indian president. He would have so much to live up to that I feel like he would step up. And I don't want to make comparisons because this might be offensive to some people because they're both Indian, whatever. But Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Prime Minister of the UK, he had that same task. The country's falling apart. You know what happens in Silicon Valley when your company's falling apart? So you got to bring in the Indians, got to bring in an Indian CEO and fix up the shop. And so that's what I feel like the UK government did. Rishi Sunak had a lot to live up to, especially with a lot of the problems they're dealing with immigration in the UK. There's a lot of harsh sentiment. Long story short, he did it. He's beating the adversity. And because he has so much to live up to, he's actually working harder than somebody else would in his same position. So I think that Vivek would have so much to prove that he would really work his ass off. And would they try to fight him at every step? Yes, but he's not the same as Trump. Trump is more like brute force, where he's going to get his way regardless. Vivek understands incentives and he understands how the game is set up. Right? He did go out to all the top schools. He understands how these people think. He was valedictorian. So I feel like he could navigate how to cut deals in Congress to really get things done, how to understand the incentive structures and understand the resources that we have and what we have to offer in different deals internationally. So realistically, just from a content perspective, probably Vivek is the one. But I don't know if he's got the standing in front of Xi Jinping with that same spunk. It doesn't work. He's kind of got like a VP energy to me because he has all the right ideas, but he just might need a little bit more experience. I don't know. When I met him, he was like, he did command respect because the people on stage, they were trying to downplay him and they asked him some tough questions. You know, he's Hindu. How does the country feel about having the first Hindu president? That's something that is probably going to be on people's minds once they find out. Like, oh, how do we feel about that as a country? And the way that he worked through it was phenomenal. The guy knows what he's up against, and I feel like he could navigate it pretty well. Glad I noticed the stream. Interesting stuff. In terms of who I think will win, top 3 is Trump, Biden, and then DeSantis. I don't know about DeSantis, man. He has a presidential look, and as a governor, he has gotten it done. The only thing that's really in DeSantis' favor, it's not his charisma. It's the fact that he has a track record that you can't take away. When you can say, look at how many people moved from California and New York over to Florida during my governorship. Look at how we handled the COVID situation. Look at the crime rate in Florida versus other states. Let's look at the quality of living. Let's look at why everybody wants to move here. Let's look at the tax situations. And then you take a look at all the things that he was responsible for. I think he has a good chance of getting people's attention, especially if somebody like Newsom is going to run against him. Because then it's just going to be like, you ruined California, the greatest state in America, and I made Florida the greatest state in America. And now every major Fortune 500 company is leaving New York and California for this exodus to Texas and Florida. And because Florida's weather is just that much nicer, it seems like a lot of people want to move down here. Citadel moved their whole operation here. Messi is now playing for Inter Miami. A lot of people are moving down here, and I think that there's a shift. A lot of that we have to give credit to DeSantis for. And really, when we hosted the FX Summit the first time here in Miami, it was because every other location that we had in mind, like LA and Las Vegas, had shut down for COVID. The only state that would allow us to do the FX Summit, not in 2020, but to even think about doing it in the future, that was even considering doing tours, that was even open to this, was Florida. And so because of his policies, I believe that's why we were able to host the first summit down here. Since Biden at number 2, yeah, Frenchie, I'm going to be honest with you, bro, I think you're kind of bugging. But then again, the country wants safe because they know he's not the president, but they know that whoever his handlers are, they're probably in better hands if the Democrats are in power than somebody else. People really are that stupid. They will send this country down the drain. This is why voting is important. Because if people are uninformed and they just want to vote for party because it's comfortable and they just assume that they're going to be better off with policies, with things that they care about, and then they get robbed through taxes and inflation and money printing and foreign wars and all the things that nobody fucking asked for. So, in complete honesty, I think that the uninformed voters are the most dangerous. And I think that if enough people are waking up to this and realizing that this next election is the single most important election that I've seen in my whole lifetime, this one is make or break for America. So I really hope people waking up for it. That's why I'm doing this stream, is because this isn't just about, oh, how does this relate to markets? You wake up after you make money trading. If the cost of living is going up and if your country's falling apart, you have bigger problems than just making cash. So that's why this next election is very, very near and dear to me. And I'm going to be following it all the way through 2024 because this is going to be the craziest year for markets. I don't know if you guys know, but during election cycles, there's propaganda that comes out. There's news that completely shakes markets. There's distractions. There's basically just noise. And our job is to try to cut through the noise and figure out what's happening, keep our eye on the ball, and remember that it's an election cycle, and then be able to take advantage of the volatility, as opposed to getting caught up like, oh, it has to crash because this whole thing is happening. Instead, we have technical strategies. We're going to make money, and we can cut through the noise and really just remain focused. But now the markets are moving, with a lot more volatility, and we're able to capitalize on that opportunity. All right, y'all, I'm going to catch you tomorrow morning for the New York Market Open stream. I'm going to catch you guys later. Happy and safe trading. If you have any questions, reach out. If not, peace.